and we'll just jump into the packet this morning. One thing I didn't get in the packet, but I wanted to hit on is the crop progress report. Jeff tells me the most important number on there are winter wheat condition. This overall throughout the entire U.S. So that's going to affect your futures on that soft red Chicago contract that we always pay attention to and use to hedge off our soft white. We had an increase in the good to excellent from 49 to 50%. So no major change there, but I mean, half the crop they're saying is at least, and I guess that's going to also affect your hard red winter as well. So we're not seeing any, degrading of the crop conditions on our wheat crops, but I haven't seen a planting progress report on spring wheat though, to see how that's going. So Oregon and Washington just kind of bouncing around. Washington did see an uptick last week's report. This week, I don't think there was probably a whole lot of change to it.
Spring wheat planted 47%, average 31.
So you said it was 47, Jeff?
Yeah.
So spring wheat planting progress is at 47%. Typically for this week in the year, they're at 31%. So they're well ahead of pace. They're not having any troubles at this point getting the crop in. Must not be dealing with that mud that we dealt with here this last week that Steve's smiling about. So jump over here to the page 2 and that pricing sheet. We are starting to see, a little bit of stability in that cash price. We had pushed up last week, had some down days early this week, and we saw that price slip off a little bit. Seems to kind of be moderating and hanging where it's at. We talked, probably 2 months ago about some export business that had been done. It was June, early July shipment period. I'd mentioned that exporters really weren't going out and looking for backing from the country, meaning, if we sell this business, will you sell us, a barge or two? So I continue to kind of think they were a little bit short because some of the exporters that have been real quiet for the past 6 months, they're starting to call a little more often and starting to get some competitive bids. Instead of having one person leading the charge, you're starting to see somebody matching their price, another guy kicking around at that. So it's kind of telling me that there is some buying interest. And obviously we're not going to be able to get to, the flood of new crop coming on before those ship nominations are coming. Some of those are coming like the first weeks of June. So I do think we have a little bit of price support finally in Portland. The thing is, how long is that going to last? Once they get that fill, what they need, obviously they don't like to store, they can't store wheat there. They're going to buy what they need, get it shipped, get it turned around on a ship and get it moved out. So continue to look for pricing opportunities. I would say if you're holding on to some old crop, if you're going to be selling new crop, we're not seeing a discount yet from old crop to new crop. That's probably coming, but maybe taking advantage, especially if you're going to want some cash during, harvest time. You don't have a discount from first half July to last half July right now. Maybe now, and I'm poking Jeff on that, he's going to decide we want to do that. But
what's that?
Just your first half July versus last half July bid.
Yeah, I think we're close to that.
We're getting close to it. So if you see an opportunity there and, you're not confident you'll get your pricing in, or 5,000 bushels or whatever you're going to want to sell at harvest for that first part of July, you can always do that last half specification and be able to deliver there. But like I said, that's probably gonna fade here shortly, and we'll have a discount from last half July and August compared to June and first half July. So like I said, June and that first half July is kind of where we're getting the interest from exporters and, kind of where they're hungry at. So that's going to be probably a little bit hotter. I want to take a look at futures. About a month ago, we talked about base price contracts. $7 is going to be that trigger mark. We did roll out a new program. You may have seen it on the emails that come out with the daily pricing. That $7 figure's been lowered down to $6.50. So to start a futures contract on one of those futures or a base price contract based on a futures month, it has to be trading at 650 or higher. Which you can see on the sheet as of last night, that wouldn't have worked for a July contract. However, we saw a decent little rally in the overnight. This next page, page 3, it's got a chart or graph on it. That was basically the overnight and early morning trading for that July contract. And you can see those are Eastern time numbers, but there was a little rally. We were just kind of jumping around, up a few cents most of the night. And then all of a sudden we got a pop to about 22 cents. And then it backed off, and it opened up this morning up about 13 cents from where it closed yesterday afternoon. So now that we're opening up those base price contracts, there is some paperwork to do ahead of them. You know, that's just kind of states the terms of it, so everybody's aware of it. We've got to have that signed in return, contact the office. Some other just quick parameters. We're not going to allow any more than 50% of your average production in 1 year to be on the books at once. We are holding on to the ability to amend those contracts, but it's not something that could necessarily happen forever. At any time that could be revoked. So again, call the office. We can email that to you. Calling it a master agreement to look through, but 650 is that target price. So as of this morning, you know, all the contracts are trading at or above there. If July is trading, let's say at 630, obviously that's not there. But as you look down the board, you might see December 24 or March 25 could be trading above that 650. So just because the nearby futures aren't trading there, those deferreds could. The reason I wanted to throw this graph in here is just showing the market orders. I mean, if you had a target of, say, you know, 670 or 675, you wanted to start one at, those futures markets, I mean, they work all night long. In the overnight, they shut down like 5 or 5:30 in the morning. So having those in there, sometimes funny things can happen. A lot of the futures run-ups we've been seeing have been weather related. I mean, we're in a weather market, so changing forecasts can move those up and down. One of the big movers right now is Chicago. On the days it's been up, has leaned back to French wheat, the Matif, going on fire because one, we got dryness concerns coming out of Russia. Stop me if you've heard this before, but they're still offering wheat out at about the cheapest price in the world for their old crop. If they were going to be short new crop, I would think they'd start backing that off and at least raising their price up, because they're setting the floor on things. It's tough for people to undercut them. So you would think they would start picking that up. I mean, the Egypt business they're selling is like 270-day terms. They're selling the wheat, shipping it, and Egypt has 270 days to pay for it. So it's not like it's a real quick turn of cash. Why would you keep offering it low? I think the last stuff they sold was $255 a metric ton. And what did that include, Jeff? It was not shipping, was not included, but it's loaded and on the ship basically, correct? Yeah. So it's still going fairly cheap. So it kind of makes me wonder. And then they had some cold weather conditions the last, I don't know, probably 3 days. Nighttime temperatures dipping down below freezing. And so they've kind of had some freeze concerns. So I think some of the activity we'll see in the overnight, we see the price, you know, ratchet up on the futures. It's just because weather reports and things hitting those markets. And so it's probably not a bad idea if you've got a base price contract target to hit it. You know, we're not seeing people jump in where we can only do 50% of a crop and get wild with things. They're actually kind of sitting back and thinking, okay, here's my targets. And it takes a little more thought to do that instead of some of the past activity of just loading up at prices and seeing what happens. So that's definitely a tool that's back on the table. And like I said, market orders, I think, are a great deal on those because they work when we're all sleeping. Jeff said that he did have one fill for somebody that had one working overnight. So from there, let's jump to the export sales report on page 4. Not a whole lot going on there. We'll flip to, actually, wheat had a so-so week, kind of right in the middle of expectations. Nothing super exciting for all classes of wheat. White wheat, I mean, you're cooked on your old crop. Old crop, this current crop year ends the end of May. There's no way somebody's probably going to buy something and expect to get it shipped by the end of the year. So most all your activity is going to be in new crop sales, that bottom bolded line there. 1.8 million bushels. It's not exciting, but at least it's something. And we're going to need those to ramp up. If we flip to page 11, taking a look, we do have WASDE today. The monthly supply and demand report from USDA will come out. So your bids will probably be a little late this morning, 10 o'clock ish instead of the 9:30 typical time. That report comes at 9, and by the time people digest it, it takes a little while to get cash bids pushed out. One thing I want to look at, page 11 on the white wheat, the sales that are on there for the week. The new crop sales looks like Philippines we're in. I mean, that's common business. They're always out there 3 or 4 months ahead of time.
I don't think that chart's right either.
And that chart's not right because we saw 1.8 million bushels. I looked at that, and that's only registering 0.35 million bushels. So with an error on somebody's information there. So what I want to look at though are those marketing year-to-date sales and the USDA export estimate up in the upper left series of numbers. And in that 23-24 crop year, which is the year we're in right now, year-to-date sales of 147 million versus what the USDA's left our estimate, or they've had it at that 155. Obviously, we're not going to hit that. So we're going to anticipate a little extra carry out. So that tells me, obviously, we're not booking new stuff for the nearby, but if we've got price support still in Portland, they're short on some stuff they sold, considered new crop, still going to have to use old crop. And so that's where I see, our nearest opportunities for, locking in a little bit higher price than we're seeing right now. But that could change if we, news comes out that it's not as dry as what they say it is in Russia. Go a couple weeks here and see if we actually have any freeze damage. But yeah, I'd be looking at some targets. Are we going to crank this thing up to $7? I sure as heck don't think so. But I think we can squeeze out a little bit more than what we're sitting at right now. Whether that tops out at 650 to 675, I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't get super greedy on it if you are going to want to sell something ahead of the new crop slug coming on, because it looks like there's going to be some wheat. Jeff was over on the eastern side of our range earlier this week, and he told me he was pretty hard pressed to find any stress looking wheat. So that's always a good thing. With that, unless anybody's got any questions, I would entertain those right now. It doesn't look like Jacob was able to make it on. Don't know if any of you crop insurance guys have any announcements you'd like to make or anything. I did see Bud on here earlier, but then he jumped off. He must have a hot deal he's working, so we can't even bug him this morning.
Our broker reminded us today is a trigger date for the Voice from the Tomb. It's a sell July wheat day.
Oh, evidently historical futures say it's a day to sell the July futures. So maybe today is the day to lock in some base price contracts. We'll see. I don't know. Okay. Well, there's Bud. I guess he is on there. He must not be paying attention to us, or he doesn't have anything to say, which is awful rare. So,
you hit that right on the head. So,
what's that?
well, you hit it right there. Everybody's on pins and needles trying to see what the crop report comes out. There's a bunch of flurry about freezing and dryness, and the Russian crop. The Egyptian tender you were talking about, it gets back to FOB value somewhere around 240 bucks a ton, which is an uptick of probably $15 a ton. Some of that is because they're trying to support the price that goes into Egypt. Some of the commercial stuff is trading at a lesser premium than that. But the reality of it is that people don't know where the world price of wheat's going to be until the Russians decide how big their crop's going to be. There's a big difference between them raising 90 million tons and 82 million tons. Okay. Currently, white wheat, if you figure white wheat on FOB values, white wheat's some of the cheapest FOB in the world, right around $250 a ton. It is the cheapest wheat going into Asia. Biggest problem is you haven't got any end users buying it yet. What makes the market real precarious here is that the buyers just have not shown up. Last 18 months, they've been very successful on waiting hand to mouth because every time they turn around, the price is going down. And right now, if there is a production problem in Russia, we're probably going to see the first time where prices may be turning around, maybe appreciating a little bit. And then they're going to have to figure out how they're going to cover their positions and start carrying inventory rather than going hand to mouth. So it's a big report today because we got our first glimpse on next year's crop production against what anticipated S&Ds are going to be. And I don't anticipate any surprises other than maybe more winter wheat than they think is planted out there. But we'll have to wait and see.
Thanks,
All
bud.
I got.
Thank you. Well, let me just double check the chat. Don't see anything in there. So with that, thanks everybody for tuning in. Guys, here's your reminder. It is Mother's Day this coming Sunday. So take that advice, whatever you're going to do with it. I'll leave out the joke I was going to tell this morning. I tried it out on my 6-month-old this morning and she laughed at it. But since we see some females on here, I won't do it. It just had to do with reminding them to get their chores done Saturday so they can relax on Sunday. But anyway, happy Mother's Day to everybody, and we'll talk to everybody in 2 weeks.